All right, here we've got the second volume of the game that came out. It's important to note that this is not an expansion. It is it's a whole game in one box. You don't need victories to play this. But this is Wing Leader Supremacy, 1943, 1945, so this covers the second half of the war. This was published 1 year after Victories in 2016, and there were a number of changes rule-wise that are found in this game, but the rules the rule changes apply to the first volume of the game as well. The content in this game is compatible. They're two separate games, Victories and Supremacy, but they're totally compatible with each other. You can mix and match pieces to create scenarios that would have aircraft from 1942 or earlier if you're either designing or playing a scenario that would use aircraft from both, which there aren't in this game. All the content in this game, including the scenarios, only use content that is found in this box, but future expansions to the games introduce some scenarios that there's not a lot of them, but a few scenarios that it would use content from Victories as well as Supremacy for those scenarios that kind of bridge the gap between 42 and 43, and you've got aircraft from both base game boxes. So here we got Supremacy, and let me just pop the lid here and we'll kind of cover what changed or what new content we find here. So again, we've got a lot of aircraft data cards, and I'll show you these here in a little bit. But one of the big changes you'll notice in second edition, not second edition, in volume 2 is they gave you a mounted map board. So same thing as this, no real change there, but it is on nice mounted board. Folds out. There are a few additions, and I can pop this out for you real quick just so you can see what really changed. They added a turn track to the outside of it so that you can kind of follow turn order. Let me see if I can unfold this real quick. There we go. All right. Not real flat, but I'll just show you the only real change between Victories and Supremacy is they added, you can kind of see this really faintly, these little turn boxes, and there is a marker that you can use and kind of advance up the side to keep track of which turn you're on. That's only important for scenarios where there are reinforcements that enter on a certain turn or what have you. But other than that, I mean, the boards are identical, and other than this one's mounted. So let me fold this up real quick. All right. So Supremacy gave us a new rulebook version 2.0. So the rules had been updated. Things changed that Lee thought would better represent the air combat. Rule changes that some of them minor, some of them fairly major and game changing, but don't really mess with the balance of the scenarios. Maybe a little bit, but we'll talk about that. That was actually addressed in Victory's second edition. They did some rebalancing of the scenarios for changes made to the rules, and in particular how bombing works and some things like that. But version 2.0 of the rules, the rules, again, like I said, are for both games. They're completely compatible with each other. It's also important to note, and Lee has made this very clear, that your game is not complete. If you've got Victory's first edition, you're not playing with a broken system. You are playing with a game that is very playable in and of itself. It's not like there's anything defective that keeps it from being a very enjoyable experience, and many people have played it for a number of years with version 1 of the rules, and no issues at all. But obviously, with the version 2 and newer editions of the rules, it's just getting better. It's more streamlined, easier to follow, and also rules that maybe are more accurately make more sense of what really happened in air combat. But Lee has noted some of those things on his website. And again, let me just encourage you, in the description or in this YouTube channel, you'll find descriptions for the designer's website as well as the manufacturer's website, GMT Games, where you can find this. You also get another scenario guide for all the scenarios that come in Supremacy, and there are 23 scenarios, again ranging from years 1943 to 1945. The charts changed a little bit to reflect the rule changes, but I mean otherwise their formatting and the way they're laid out are the same. So again, if you're playing, if you have both Victories and Supremacy, you would want to use these version 2.0 of the player aids as well. They are backwards compatible. You use them with Victories as well. So you get the two play aids, just like in Victories. There's two identical play aids, one for each player, and then the one sequence of play and flak and bombing table player aids. But they're the same quality, same materials, just the version 2. And plus the 2 aircraft data cards. I'm sorry, not wing displays. These didn't change a bit. But one addition they did include that is not in Victories first edition is a battle display. And all this does is it gives you some kind of pop-out boxes for when you get squares on the map that get congested with a number of pieces. Say in some of those multi-squadron flight combats, if things get over-congested, you can mark it with a single counter that then tells you to go and put all your pieces here, just to keep things easily organized and not so confusing and chaotic. I've actually never used this yet. I found it fairly easy to keep all the pieces on the map, but there are some instances where I would probably use this. And then other than that, you get the 2d6. You get 2 more trays of counters. The way I organize them, 2 more trays of counters. And as you can see, there's a lot of room here for future content. If you organize them the way I do, you can easily fit them inside. The box is deeper on Supremacy, so you can easily fit the content into the box along with the 2 trays. Victories, you can't really fit the trays inside. So, yeah, unfortunately, Victories was a thinner box. So the only change really with the markers in Supremacy is that the vectors and the squadron ID markers are red and green, whereas in Victories they were blue and yellow. So which is nice. It gives you some variety there. All right. Oh, one other thing to note is that the target counters, which are in this column, the targets, let me pop one of these and show you. The targets, I don't know if there's an example of a counter in here. Yeah. Okay, so for instance, where is, let me try to get this to focus. There we go. Targets and in Supremacy have a little star in the lower right hand corner to indicate that these are the updated versions of these ground targets, and these are also backwards compatible. It's intended that you use these if you have them for your Victories content as well. Just replace Victories counters with these. They're rebalanced, making them a little more realistic. It just improves the overall quality of the game. So these are meant to replace the Victories targets in addition to using them in Supremacy. All right, and then kind of the stars then of the game. Let's look at the ADCs real quick. Start with the German fighters. What you get in Supremacy, you get two more variants of the BF-109, the late models G6 and K4. With the Fokker Wolves, you actually get 4 variants. The FW-190A4 was actually in Victories, but was also heavily used in the second half of the war too, which is why it's included in this game. And you also notice that down at the bottom, you'll find version numbers for the ADCs. And in new content that's come out that's replaced ADCs, you'll see these version numbers increase, so you know which ones to use, which are the most updated. So here's the 4 models of the Fokker Wolf. And we get a BF-110 G2 version, the M410. Later Stuka model, not that late, I mean 1942, and the Me-262 jet fighter. You only have one Italian aircraft ADC in this later 1943 to 45 module, the MC-205. But again, if you're a big Italian fan, don't worry, there's more to come for the Italians in the expansions, which I'll be showing you here shortly. And then the Japanese, you got a late war Ki-43, late war 0, a 6M5, Ki-61, the Tony, the Jack, Frank, the George. So these are some of these really neat late war Japanese aircraft. I really enjoy looking at these. And the B6N2, the Jill torpedo bomber, the Judy dive bomber, and the Ki-67 Peggy medium bomber. And how cool is this? I mean, you get a Romanian aircraft. How often do you see this in an air combat game? The IAR-81C fighter for the Romanians. All right. Let me see. Let me take you to the Allied aircraft then. You've got, for the Americans, P-39Q Air Cobra, another P-40 Warhawk, the N model. Of course, you've got the Corsair. You have to have the Corsair and the Hellcat. You get 2 variants of the P-38 Lightning, P-38J and F. Actually, I should put these in this order because this one was the earlier model. The P-47C Thunderbolt and the P-47D, representing the P-47s. And then for the P-51s, you've got the earlier P-51B model without that distinctive bubble canopy, and then the classic P-51D Mustang. SB-2C3 Helldiver, B-25 Mitchell, B-26 Marauder, B-24 Liberator, B-17G Flying Fortress, and B-29. And you'll notice with all the aircraft data cards, and I'll be explaining this in future videos as well, but there's a lot of variants also on the backs of these cards that give you more aircraft models that essentially use the same base stats, but there's a few things that may change depending on the variant. So a lot of American aircraft represented in Supremacy. And then 2 more Allied powers to show. The Soviets, Yak-7, Yak-9, the LA-5FN, IL-2M, the Sturmovik with the back gunner, because the Victories edition just had the single seat variant, and the PE-2 Peshka light bomber. And the British, they get the 2, the Typhoon and the Tempest. The Tempest was kind of the improvement of the Typhoon. The Naval Spitfire, the Seafire, and then 2 Spitfire variants, Spitfire F and the Mark 9 and the Mark 14. And then a Beaufighter, Mark 10. So these are the ADCs that come with Supremacy. And major rule changes, I think I'm going to save that for when I talk about the newest edition of the rules. Well, there's a nice summary of things that have changed over the years. But I'm going to go ahead and pause the video here and queue up the next content. Actually, I should say that in 2016, in addition to Supremacy coming out, there was another C3I publication, issue 30, which had 2 additional scenarios as well as 20 new counters added to the game. So there you have Supremacy and the content that you get in the box. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video here, and I'll queue up Wing Leader Blitz, the first expansion for the Wing Leader system.